It'll take a minute. All right, guys. Well, I'm finished spraying for the day. Wish I could say that was super fast and super easy, but it was none of the above. I did like the paint sprayer. There is a number on the side of the paint sprayer that is super helpful because I had to call it within like maybe half a gallon. After using about a half a gallon, about half the ceiling was done painted. It clogged up and YouTube did not help. What I did, no one answered any question on YouTube, but they answered right away. And so that was super helpful. But oh my gosh, this was a lot of work. I mean, I can't expect a brand new tool to me just to work great the first time. So there was like the whole learning curve. I actually really loved spraying with it. I love the look of it, but the setup, the cleanup for the first time, it was not like super fast and super easy. I also feel like it was just as messy, which I feel like with a roller and a brush, there's the mess involved with the drips, and this is messy too. Like sometimes I even feel like I got more messy. I mean, I'm just like covered in paint. There's little paint pieces everywhere and dust and everything. So I don't know, the jury's still out on that one because I haven't got to see it 100% dry yet. It's so hard to tell all the light coming in the room right now. It looks light and bright, and that's about all I can see, but I didn't have enough time to do another coat. In fact, the paint sprayer got clogged again. So yeah, painting, a full day of painting, never fun. So that's kind of my take on it so far. Is I really liked the power of the sprayer. I guess I didn't expect for it to get clogged twice while I was doing it and having to fiddle with that. So I know that these get clogged. I know that's like an issue with them. I felt like it was more of an issue with my little Wagner sprayer, but that maybe with time will be easier. I think this would be really nice to do with cabinets, but a whole room and a ceiling. I mean, I just really have never found a way I like painting a ceiling. I don't like painting it with an extension rod and a roller, and I don't really like spraying it. So I think the answer maybe is higher on that one because I just hate doing it. So, I don't know. I guess conclusion is let's check back tomorrow and see how it dried. Right now I'm just exhausted and it's late. I had to send my husband home to relieve the babysitter for the kids, and so I just have like mom guilt right now that I spent all day painting when I thought it would be a little bit faster, but that's how it goes. I think you get these tools thinking they'll help save you time, and that's sometimes not always the case, especially when it's first time using a new tool. There's just like a learning curve. But yeah, we'll check in later and I'll show you the room once it's dried and see how much touch-up work we have to do. Okay, I'm back in the room to check out how my paint job turned out. As you could tell, yesterday didn't go so well. It was a long, exhausting day, and I was super unhappy when I left that it like took so long to get everything going. So this is my first time kind of walking in the room, seeing if there was any touch-up work, and first glance, it's nice and bright, and I think the color I picked out, the white color I picked out, turned out nice and bright and like just enough warmth to keep it creamy. I do see I wasn't able to do a second spray yesterday, so I kind of went over a couple spots like the fireplace a couple times, but other than that, everything else just got one coat. And so I do see a little bit of streaking on the ceiling. I'll try to get, I don't know if you can see it, hold on. There's just a touch on the ceiling right through here where you can just see where the sprayer went. But overall, I think it turned out pretty good. The fireplace turned out great. So yeah, overall, I think the room turned out pretty well. I'm just gonna pop back on with the roller just for a little bit on the ceiling where there's just some streaking. I noticed when I was doing some test spots on the cardboard with the sprayer that it was missing this little centerpiece. I'm not sure why. I'll have to kind of research that a little bit more, why that little centerpiece was missing. But I think when I was spraying the ceiling, that one continued to kind of have that, that little spot missing. So overall, it looks good. I have just a little bit of touch-up paint, which is to be expected. The color I picked for the room, it is by Benjamin Moore. It's called White Dove. And picking out a white paint is not as easy as you wish it would be. Like, you wish you could just grab a gallon off the paint shelf and put it on your walls. But especially in a room like this that's really dark and going white, you can't just do that with any paint. I have beige, pinky beige floor tile. It's lovely, but it tends to have a really pink undertone. And so if you get the wrong white paint, it not only, because there's no light in this room, it will look kind of grayish and really dark and dingy in the corners, but it just will reflect the wrong color. So I have a few whites that I love that are really crisp and modern. I tested them out in this room and they didn't look good. They were really stark looking. So I kind of went back to some of the warmer tones that I've not used in the last few years, because the house I have now can really handle those really crisp modern whites. But I tried out Cloud White by Benjamin Moore, which is like a winner for me. It tends to come out really creamy and bright. Actually, even in this room, it showed up a little bit too white. And then White Dove has just a touch more warmth to it. So it's great if you have anything old in your home, or in this case, I have some red oak molding around the door. So I wanted something that could kind of stand next to stuff that had a little bit of age on it. And so it gives you that really bright white look, but also it tones down enough to where it doesn't look stark like you did just put like primer white all over the walls. So I'm really happy with the color. There was a moment where I wasn't sure, because over the yellow walls that were in here, the room was really yellow. It looked really nice and white. And then when I put it over primer, I retested all 3 colors that I tested over primer again. It looked so yellow, and I tend to shy away from something really warm or yellowing, but I think I ultimately went with it. 2 reasons. I'd already mixed my paint and I'd sat with it for a week. So I was pretty sure it was gonna work out pretty well. But I think over time, as I start to change stuff out, maybe putting different floors in over the years, we'll have to change the white again, but that's to be expected. Before I even started painting yesterday, I had done a little bit of demo. We took out the crown molding, which I really didn't like the crown molding in here. I stopped the height of the ceiling. It was that red oak color, which I was trying to tone down a little bit in this room, and I couldn't wait to get it off. So we demoed the crown molding, took all of it off, and we were left with these little backer blocks, which I had not seen backer blocks installed on crown molding before. I've taken crown molding down without these. This, I think, because it was such a large crown molding, they put these blocks behind it. These suckers were on tight. So they used probably 5 or 6 long brad nails to keep them in. We tried a few kind of methods to get them down, and all of them were damaging the wall. But my husband ended up using a screw. He put a screw into the block and then took it off with a hammer. And that seemed to do the trick with the most minimal amount of patchwork. So after we cleaned scraped off everything and got the little bead of caulking around the whole perimeter and the crown molding off everything, I went in and did patchwork. I really enjoy patching stuff. I really enjoy drywall work in general. I don't know why. I don't know if it's therapeutic or it just feels like a little bit like I'm painting, and so a little bit of that artistic side gets to come out and make it really smooth and perfect. Like, it's just like, I tend to not shy away from doing that myself. So I went around and did all the patchwork on the room. Some spots did need some mesh tape, which you've seen in drywall used, just because the holes were a little large. But I just use joint compound that's pre-mixed in a jug with a small to medium putty knife. And I went through and filled all the nail holes and all the really deep gouges in the top of the ceiling and the wall. And then that has to dry, sand, and then usually there's a little bit more filler that needs to be done with the joint compound for like a second time, especially some of those really deep ones that the hammer went into when we were getting off those blocks. But after that final sand, then everything needs to be primed. And the reason you have to prime over joint compound is it sucks up moisture and it needs a barrier. So primer just needs to be over that part, so you can, even if the walls are already freshly painted and it's not new drywall, you can just primer over that. I ended up doing the whole room because the paint had been done a long time ago. It was kind of dark and dingy and yellowing. So I just primered the whole room and I left it just one coat. So the primer doesn't look very pretty, but I did primer over the whole room, especially focusing on those spots that I had patched with the joint compound. And I just used a roller and a brush. And as that day went on, I was like, I'm gonna try a sprayer because I have to do the ceiling. So I went and invested in a different sprayer than I have. I have a Wagner control sprayer. I've used this for fences and decks and to do small hobby projects. And I went and invested in the Graco, I believe it's the X5, I'll link it or show it later in the video, but I went and got this one. It's a little bit pricey. It's 300 bucks or 320 or something like that. And I heard great things about it. It has really great reviews. It's an airless system. And I loved the shape and the feeling of the gun, and that it felt a little bit stronger than like the plastic version I had that you pour the paint into. And you could put the hose right in the paint can, as well as I kept reading, it was really important to have a good method to wash the sprayer. So sprayers can be a lot of work to take them apart and wash them. And so this one you can hook right up to a garden hose. So all these were very desirable, why I chose this one. And I went right into wanting to paint this room with that sprayer. And before I spray, because I had rolled it with the primer, a lot of the stuff was done. Like I'd already removed nail holes, I'd already patched and repaired the walls. Furniture was out of the room, all the outlet covers. But when you spray, you have this whole extra layer of protectiveness you have to do to the room. So you have to block off anything that the little particles of paint get into. The paint sprayer also has more force, so it kind of gets into things. So you block off all openings, you block off windows, molding, all the things you can kind of avoid when you're using a paintbrush and a roller. And so not only do you do the floor like you would with a paintbrush and a roller, but now you have to do every opening. This room had 3 openings plus the double doors, or kind of they're like 4 doors and windows right here. So there was a lot of extra patchwork, all the lighting up above, the speakers had to come down, the fire alarm, and then I ended up blocking off the bookshelves because I kind of came up with an idea that I'm gonna paint some of it, but not all. I might keep the back style, and I just didn't want to go through and spray it. I think originally when I thought about spraying this room, I thought, oh, for the bookshelves, it will be a no-brainer. And then I changed my design plan and decided not to spray the bookshelves. So that will suck if I go back and decide to do it. But in conclusion, let me talk about the sprayer. I do think it's a great tool to have. It's fantastic for the grooves on the fireplace, because getting in there with a roller and a brush, what happens is a little bit of extra paint gets in and it oozes out, so you're constantly going back over it, as well as bookshelves and cabinetry. You just can't beat that look of a sprayer. It's so clean and smooth. I don't know if I would use a sprayer again for walls and ceilings. I think it's too much work. I didn't save that much time yesterday, and a room like this that has so much you have to block off, like the openings, it just wasn't as efficient as I think just using a roller, even though a roller takes more time. And I don't tape, so I cut in, I take down a lot of that time of patching and masking off the room, or masking off the room with the tape and the film, but then I spend a little bit more time because cutting in is a little bit slower. So I would definitely pick a sprayer just for specific projects like a fireplace, cabinetry, taking off drawers and doors in any kind of setting like that, or bookshelves. I'm gonna stick to rolling, I think, for walls, and I'm just gonna hire for ceilings because I hate doing ceilings, but hopefully I won't have to do many more ceilings. So yeah, the prep work on the sprayer was a lot more involved. I learned this trick from a handyman painter that I have used for years, and it's to wash your walls before. So the prep work really all helps the way your room turns out in the end. So I've gone to homes before where I've started working on them and someone just painted right over the nails and the screws that were in the wall. It's like so little time to take that stuff out. So go through, patch all those little holes, especially with white, those little holes look black after you paint. So patch everything, wash your walls, which takes away all the debris, the cobwebs in the corner. It's just a couple extra minutes to do it. And sometimes when I'm washing the walls, I find even little stuff that I missed, and I'll go back and find another hole to fill. So this is all really quick. For little tiny nail holes, that spackle, that kind of mixed lightweight spackle is fine. I just don't like that pre-mixed lightweight spackle for anything larger than a nail hole size. It's kind of chintzy, honestly. It just doesn't really get in there and do the job. So I tend to stick with joint compound for everything like that, and unless I just have a few nail holes. Yeah, and after I taped up as much as I could, I taped up everything with this pre-taped plastic, which is the way to go when you're doing a sprayer or when you're taping like this. It's on a roll. I think it was 3M. I'll have it somewhere, I'll show you, but It's pre-taped. You just put it over the windowsill or wherever you're taping off the doorways, and it makes it so much faster. So I like that a lot better than taping over the plastic. Doing the sprayer was a lot of like tape and protective work right there. And then I just did a couple little practice little spots on cardboard because I hadn't used the sprayer before. The setup, like I said in the beginning, is like the setup just took a lot more time than I expected, but I don't know what I thought. I just was gonna open it and start spraying, but yeah, there's a lot involved. It's a kind of a beefy little sprayer that I got, and I think it will be really cool for when I do the kitchen that those ugly cabinets need to be painted. But yeah, I just did some test spots right here just to get used to the sprayer. It was really cool to kind of see the different flows and settings. I think that's like the horsepower was pretty good on that one, and it has the sound of an air compressor, but it turns off when you're spraying. It gets clogged, and I learned a couple tricks after calling the helpline, which was so helpful. She said, strain even new paint. So at first I thought it's new paint, I wouldn't need to strain it, but she said put it through a cotton t-shirt or buy the strainer bags that you can get at those supply stores like Home Depot or Lowe's, and strain it through a bag. That helps get all those little sediment and particles out of it. And then we're just running the tip through hot water. And then if it sits, I didn't know if I let it sit for 10 minutes that you need to re-prime it, which is a thing you do with the sprayer, but redoing all of that. So I think it was a lot of beginners things I was running into that day with the sprayer too. So yeah, the room is painted. What's next? Let's see, we have a lot. This is for my 1 room challenge. I have about 4 or 5 weeks left to fix up this room and get it kind of ready. This is a very phase 1 design for this room. I just wanted to have like a living space that we could lounge and hang out and something bright in the room. The more I'm here, the more I realize this wall has to go. The dining room's on the other side. I love the charm of this home. It's 1968 mid-century style where everything was blocked off and kind of had this era where you stayed in one room to do something, but I just love natural light, and I'm dying having a really dark dining room half of the day and a really dark lounge half the day. So this room gets a little bit of light. I mean, I am hugged against the window right now because this room gets no light in it, and I can't really film anywhere away from it. And then the dining room gets this really great afternoon light, and I love the beams of light that come through. So that wall is coming down. I'm not gonna do it for this next 4 to 5 week challenge, but I know that, and that's kind of like in my design plan. So in this room is getting some good furniture, but as far as projects I still have to do, I want to do a little treatment over the fireplace. Down the road, when I change out the floor, I will do something really cool, like a concrete or terrazzo bench. It just, the paint samples or the terrazzo samples and the concrete samples don't really, the color I want doesn't look great with these floors. And I can do something else for the time being because it's in good shape. It's got a textural kind of slate look to it. I just don't like the color. It's kind of dingy and dark, and I don't think it flows. So I'm not sure if I'm going really dark on it or really light, but I have a couple ideas for that. So that's I'm gonna work on. And then the whole wet bar is getting a little revamp. It's right now, it looks like burl wood if you look really far away, but when you get close up, you just realize she sponge painted it. It was sponge painted. So that's got to be primered and painted. I'm testing out a few colors. I had a nice little mishap with a quart of paint all over my jeans and all over the floor, so that was fun to clean up. But I'm going back and forth between like a dark green and maybe black. I just want it to still register. I do a lot of interior photography and stuff, so I'm very like conscious of, okay, if I take an image of this, will it even show up? If it's black, will you even register that there's like cabinets there? So I'm going back and forth between black and green, but I definitely want it to have like a moody kind of darker feel there. And then just lots of different styling and some shelving in there. And oh, the bookshelves. Yeah, so I did not tackle the bookshelves yesterday when I painted. That was kind of a bummer because it was on my to-do list to do, but I didn't even get a chance to finish. Like I said, I have some touch-up work still to do. So the bookshelves will be next. I am going to just do I don't know what you'd call it, but like the framing around the bookshelf. I'm gonna do that white. I'm gonna do all the shelves white. I'm gonna spray them. I'm gonna do all the shelves white, the sides of it white. I think I already actually, let's see. think I sprayed it white. Yeah. So the side of the bookshelf will be white when you walk in, but then I'm gonna leave the back, just the back framing of the bookshelf and where the sides where it goes in, the wood color. I have a cream colored sofa coming in here. A lot of the knickknacks and things I'm putting in there are white, and a lot of pottery and vases that have like a white light color. So I think it might be kind of cool. And worst case scenario, I tape everything off and repaint it again. And then other than that, it's artwork. I'm looking for a rug. I think I'm gonna have to go pretty big. I think it's gonna either be a 9x12, maybe I can get away with an 8x10, depending on this couch. I keep checking on this couch. It's supposed to be maybe a couple weeks, but the couch I think is like super low and loungy and it will be really fun, but it's also big to where the rug has to be a little bit larger. So I'm kind of waiting on that to see how it all feels together and then get a rug after that. I love doing these challenges because of the community and the motivation, but I don't make purchases based on like finishing in time. So if I don't have a rug, I'll grab my other rug from my other house and use that. I just don't want to buy something that I wouldn't love or wouldn't want just for the sake of like finishing the challenge on time, because I think with all the painting and all the styling and all that stuff, like it will look completely done, you know, for the most part. So yeah, I will have another update next week. I'm working my butt off in between the kids just to get it done, and see you next week.